I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. As is my tradition, I just want to announce thank you for coming, but also like to announce everybody's around the table for everybody in the room and also anybody who's watching at home. We have Christine Keller, our town clerk, John Paciotti, counselor, Stephanie Thibodeau, counselor, Michelle Flowelling, our town manager, Peter Lawrence, counselor, and myself, Matt Townsend, counselor and chair. The first order of business, the public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com and or via our social media presence. Fairfield is hiring in all departments. Contact the town office. In December, council begins reviewing appointment applications for upcoming volunteer positions on local boards and committees, including the following: Budget Committee, Planning Board, Land Use Board of Appeals, Economic and Community Development Committee, Board of Assessment Review, Board of Registration, Board of Appeals. If you are interested in serving your community, please complete an appointment application form available online or at the town office. Appointments are made at the town council's January annual organizational meeting. Number 3, the 2024 dog licensing tags are available at the town office. Current 2023 dog licenses expire on December 31st. And the veterinarian in the area might have just done those today, so it is important to get done. Number 4, Lawrence Public Library, International New Year's Countdown Kits, December 28th and 30th. Ring in the new year with a different country all day following world time zones. LPL kit includes chart, New Year's goodies, activities, and special recipes from countries around the world. Special events, regular and seasonal programs may be found on the LPL social media page. 5, the non-emergency town services will be closed on January 1st in holiday observance. Second order of business, public hearings. Call a hearing to order. To hear public comments on proposed comprehensive statutory amendments to the land use ordinance, accessory dwelling units, LD 2003, and cannabis MRSA, Title 28B and Title 22.
So moved.
Second.
It's public hearing.
Oh, that's
It's a
right.
public hearing.
It's open.
Anybody in Zoom?
Anybody can, all right.
Nobody on Zoom.
Nobody on Zoom.
Nobody.
I mean, there are people on Zoom, but there's nobody, no comments.
In the room, comments? That's the comprehensive the land use ordinance, which was that big stack from last meeting. So it's just the alterations of the land use ordinances, updating that hadn't been changed in, I should know, 7 years?
Yep.
Something like that. So it's updating that.
It was last
and-
amended in 2019.
Close, 4 years.
This is
Almost
to
5.
encompass the changes for the accessory dwelling units
Yep.
and to basically change the word marijuana to cannabis.
Right.
Good evening. I'm Shelley Rudnicki, representative of Benton and Fairfield, but I'm actually here. I do have just a couple of quick questions. Is that the only changes on the cannabis aspect of it, is changing it from marijuana to cannabis?
There were a couple other changes that did come through. We had some restrictions on trying to restrict out-of-state residency requirement. So we had to have an in-state residency requirement that was deemed to be illegal. So that had to be changed as well. It was 11th hour change. But other than that, I think that that was
I thought it was also too about deliveries too.
Yeah.
Delivery. It was delivery, residents.
So, question then, does the town do, and I probably should know this, but I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but do we have limits on the number of cannabis stores that are in the town of Fairfield? I mean, it seems like there's one popping up on every street corner at this point. And I just think that, I mean, I have 2, one on one side of me, one on the other side of me. Just curious if we have any kind of limits whatsoever on cannabis stores. Because if we're going to be known as a cannabis town, I personally don't want to be.
I know, Shelley, when I attended a conference like 4 years ago, I talked to one of the representatives. It's up to the town to put in the limit for MMA guidance that the town can limit. If you want, how many cannabis?
Retail or distribution centers.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
I think
But
it's
it has-
something that
has
we
to
need
come
to
up-
look at.
Has to come up with a motion to the council.
Right. I definitely think it's something the council should look at, because we do seem to have, I mean, I can't even, right off the top of my head, I know of 5, but I'm betting there's probably more I don't even know about as far as having cannabis stores in town. I know of at least 5. How many do we have?
We have limits on their locations. So they're not allowed within the Main Street district, so while there is a lot on College Avenue in Waterville, they won't continue down
Right.
onto Main Street in Fairfield. There are limits within school districts and those sorts of setbacks, but I believe that is it. And then, of course, there's the normal limits that we have for businesses and residential areas, those sort of pieces. But the number that we can have, no, I'm not aware that we have limited that anywhere within this ordinance.
Do you know how many we have right now currently in town?
Top of my head.
I mean, I've got 2 beside me, then we got the
So some
new
of them
one.
are medical, and medical, we cannot regulate.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that.
And anything that was in existence prior to the law going into place, those are all grandfathered, so medical, we don't regulate. But when it comes to adult retail, I think we only have 1, 2, there's 3 or 4.
Request on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if one of them next to you is actually, it is a retail location, yes.
Both are retail
Yeah, and
locations.
there's
I mean,
one
like
on-
I said, I got one at the,
Yeah.
2 houses down, one probably half a dozen houses up. So I'm just curious is, and I'm considered village. When I was on the planning board for years, where I'm located out in Fairfield Center is village. And so we have 2, yeah, it's village. It goes all the way up to the Sitco station, as that's considered village. So I'm just wondering if there's any limits on the number that we can have in town. I mean, I'm curious, because how many do we really need in town? So those are kind of questions and concerns that I have coming
And
through.
when you say in town, you mean town proper?
Town of Fairfield,
Right,
because
yeah.
this is the one thing, and I know that it's a complaint that I've heard a lot out from the people in the center and stuff, is this council, sorry, Michelle, town manager, seems to consider Fairfield as being in town. Well, the Fairfield Center from the highway over pays more taxes than the rest of the town. And you know, if you count what Fairfield Center is, and we feel like, I know that I do, I mean, I've been in 30 years in this town, feel like sometimes the center just gets left out of any kind of looking at adding new businesses. I certainly don't want it to become Marijuana Central out there, but, you know, seems to limit that we're more concerned about Mill Island than we are what's going on out in the center. So that's the type of thing I want you to consider when you're looking at these conditional use permits and all of this stuff, is because it does affect all of us. So when I say in town, I mean Fairfield, not in town. Too many people just think in town is in town. And that's not what it is. We have a large town. We have, 160 miles, 167 miles that we maintain for roads and all of that stuff. That has to be taken more into consideration than what a lot of us feel. And I say a lot of us, people that I've spoken to, feel like that we get kind of the short end of the stick out in the center. So I do want the council to be aware of that and to take more consideration for that.
Because with the land use ordinance, the planning board does that.
I do realize that,
Yeah.
Peter. I was on the
So-
planning board for 12 years, so I understand. So I'm just, where we're talking planning board and land use ordinance stuff, this is the time probably to
By the way,
kind of
Shelley, we
mention
got
these
3 in
things.
the center.
Right. So I just wanted to bring those things up. Thank you.
Michelle?
So I know when cannabis was originally
Thank you.
added to our land use ordinance, the number of dispensaries and whether to limit those was discussed by the planning board throughout that process at that time when the original piece was put into place. And at that time, the thought process is that they would regulate themselves, being that if you look at the fact that there's not a McDonald's every mile down the road, that sort of thing. And as you're finding in most of these locations in other communities where they are, building after building after building, those businesses are having a tendency to fold. They're just not sustainable. So the planning board did look at that during the original piece. I don't believe that was discussed at all during this last session when they did the review, simply because of the fact that the ordinance, the way it was written, seemed to be working based upon the planning board's perspective.
All right, thank
So-
you. I just, I got blamed recently for there not being the the place down the street from me not being a dispensary, I got blamed that I was in here, you know, I was in causing problems, and I went down and talked to them, because it's like I had nothing to say about it, because it comes in front of my legislative committee, but not, you know, this is up to the town.
It is
So-
really unfortunate to be blamed for things that aren't your responsibility. I
So,
can appreciate
but
that.
I just
So,
want,
thank
you
you.
know, just want that, you know, something for the council to consider in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good, subject to bring up, and it just talks about, future use.
Yeah.
And I think how to, there are maybe limitations, so that's something that can be talked about if
We
that,
just need that.
Thank you.
On
Thank
the
you.
next agenda, on one of the
we could have it.
agendas.
As I made that, just making that note.
Okay.
Other folks who would like to discuss anything from the land use ordinance?
Okay.
We can just close, there's nothing else we have to
Yep.
accept. All right,
Do
all
declare
good.
it closed.
Close the hearing. Thank you. The third order of business, public comments. Limited to 3 minutes, members of the public may speak to the council or request opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or email comments for council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. Do we have any submitted content?
We did receive one email yesterday.
And Michelle, if I may, I just want, actually, my vice chair, we talked about it beforehand, and everything got kind of crazy last time. So I think it's because I'd like to have a chance for her to be able to talk over the rules for the public comment section, and just be, so she can have a chance to comment.
All right.
And I think Stephanie does it much more calmly than myself.
Thank you, I think. Public comments, you have a limit of 3 minutes. If you wish to speak or reserve the right to speak on a specific upcoming agenda item, wait until the chair has opened the floor for public comments, then raise your hand when the council chair has recognized you. Proceed to the podium and the microphone. State your name for the record and whom you represent, if applicable. Direct commentary or questions directly to the council chair. State your business in a brief and concise manner. Comments need to be relevant to the topic. And if you think you have an item that will take more than 3 minutes, please contact the chairman or the town manager to have an item placed on the agenda, or you can send a detailed email to our info@fairfield-maine.gov. Members of the public, please remember to refrain from whispering, talking, or otherwise engaging in other distractions at the time of the public comments. Remember, everything does have to go through the chair, and basically, that's it.
And this meant because I got all flustered and messed up last time, so I just wanted to, you guys are trying to keep track of time, we're trying to keep track of time, we're trying to keep, so you can actually see what you're doing. I thought that was just something we can use as an aid. Hopefully it helps, and Peter Lawrence will be running that. So Michelle, did you want to read that or start it?
Yes. So we did receive an email yesterday from Steve Letourneau asking that this be for public comment for tonight's meeting. It says, "Dear Fairfield Town Council and Town of Fairfield staff, I was hoping to attend in person and speak during the public comment section of the 12/27/23 Town Council meeting after viewing the last meeting online, but I have a conflict in my schedule preventing me from being there in person. It was quite embarrassing to witness the comments and behaviors of some of the people that got up and spoke at the last meeting. My wife Lisa and I have been residents of Fairfield for over 30 years, and I'm a lifelong resident, having attended Fairfield schools, and I'm a proud graduate of Lawrence High School. Our family goes back multiple generations in this town. The one thing I could always count on with our wonderful community is the genuine concern and dedication most people have to our home, that being the town of Fairfield. Rather than focus entirely on the negative aspects of the last meeting, I want to speak publicly of my unwavering support for our elected officials and our town manager, the town clerk, and all our dedicated town staff. I have known almost every member of the council for decades. One has taught several of our kids over the years. I coach PAL sports with another, etc. And in each case, I have come to appreciate their time and effort in volunteering to help govern our town's business. None of them deserve the disrespect they were given at the last meeting by certain people that got up and spoke. I am 100% in favor of people voicing their concerns, sharing their disagreements, and how things are handled, but it is crucial that we as a community demand those discussions to be done in a hospitable manner and with the respect that those offices and positions deserve. We are so blessed in this country to have a representative republic where elected officials volunteer their time to make rules, set policy, and help provide for a safe community. The only way that form of government effectively works is if we all recognize some basic tenet of decorum and behavior. I urge all of those attending these meetings to be self-reflective and to please keep in mind when voicing concerns. A big thank you to all on the council and on the staff of our town for sharing your time and talent, but also to your dedication. This is one of the town residents that is greatly satisfied with the quality and commitment you have displayed to date. Steve Letourneau, Fairfield, Maine. And that is the only one that we have received for comments to be shared. I do have just one brief thing. Cody Duncan just recently was able to sign into Zoom and was not able to speak during the public hearing portion of the land use ordinance. I just wanted to clarify, Cody, you will be able to ask a question when we get to that item during the agenda. I am hereby reserving your right to speak when we get to that portion of the agenda.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that the, oh, sorry.
That will be coming up under the action piece, so Cody, when we mention that, you can ask your question at that time.
All right, thank you.
Here we go. Shelley.
I'll start off the public comments again. Shelley Rudnicki, State Representative. I also wanted to say I'm a member of the Victor Grange, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Councilman Townsend, Councilman Lawrence, and Stephanie Thibodeau, Councilman Thibodeau, for coming to the Grange and seeing what was going on last week. I will tell you, I'm very proud of how the Grange handled the what we were dealing with last week in the flooding, and we served over 100 over the course of the 2 days, whether it was food, just a place to warm up. And we were open in the emergency need. We opened first thing Tuesday morning. We were notified by the police chief, and I woke up to getting text messages, are we opening the warming center? So I will tell you, the Grange did, and it went as probably better than we expected for the first time out. And I do want to say that I was meeting with a few Grange members earlier, and we wanted to take this opportunity to thank everybody and thank the community and to thank all the people that stopped in and said, what can I do? Can I help? And I want to thank all those that did that. We had a great turnout. We had a lot of people step up and want to help, drop food off and other things. And just as a heads up, for those of you who don't know, but to reiterate to the council, is the fact that we are doing a benefit supper and silent auction to help benefit those that have been devastated by the flooding in town. Every little bit helps, so that's, we want people to know we may not be able to give everything, that somebody wants, but we certainly will be able to do a little bit to help. So I just wanted that to be brought up, and to once again thank everyone that participated and helped out, and appreciate that.
Date and time?
Date and time, January 6th. At the Grange will be 4:30 to 7, and it's a spaghetti supper with a silent auction. We've already been gathering auction items to move forward with that. So anything anybody can donate would be greatly appreciated to do that. But to get the word out for the supper, we certainly appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, I couldn't beat you there. You guys were incredible. I got down there in the morning, and you guys already gotten through breakfast. You guys were real champs. So good job. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. Armors
Up here. Adam Lorette, I live on Davis Road. So I wanted to echo that thank you from a different perspective. And the last meeting was rough, right? There was a clear need for transparency, communication. And while I didn't get to go down to the Grange because I was battling on Davis Road, not having power until Friday, I was able to watch on social media quite a bit of interaction. As you mentioned last time, the reach that the Fairfield group has, it's a little over double what the actual town of Fairfield's reach is, which is fantastic. So what I was able to see, and I want to appreciate Councilor Townsend and Lawrence for interacting quite a bit. Since that meeting, I've seen a lot of interaction, a lot of positive reactions from that. I know I personally thanked you on Facebook for that, but that goes a long way, and I want to take a moment to recognize that. I work in human resources, so I know how valuable people are, and it's really easy, especially I work for a sales organization, to recognize negatives, but it's also really important for us to call out when we do see those positives to reinforce them. So I want to take the moment, my 3 minutes that I didn't quite need half, to just say thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, trying to learn. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Hi, Council. I'm Jeff Tyner. I'm familiar with, I think, pretty much everyone sitting there. I have been a part of a business here in Fairfield for better part of the last 20 years with an office, and just 7 months ago had moved to Fairfield. And I did see online, I didn't attend last week, but I saw online, and much like Mr. Letourneau, I just felt compelled to come and make my feelings and my perspective known to the group and to the council. Upon coming here this past year, it's certainly a community that I have been very close to and interacted with for a very long time. I was met with nothing but professionalism and a warm welcome to this community. Both Christine, Michelle, Stephanie, everyone that I had interacted with, Nicole, the code person, were extremely professional, very welcoming, were a wealth of information for me coming here. I'm a former business person, so I can understand when people were talking about really having an interest in creating more economic opportunity here. I kind of came in backwards to the Economic Development Committee group, which I was very, very thankful for that experience. Would like to be able to continue. There's a process in place for that. But all I heard was opportunity and creating some enthusiasm for looking to really rejuvenate downtown and add to this community, which is one of the reasons I moved here. So I hope that civility doesn't come here to Fairfield and die. I really would like to see that kind of move forward in a more professional manner, in a way where people are working together. There's a lot of interest out here in the community. I've seen it. I've been here to 3 or 4 of the meetings here. And I just want to say that there's a lot of positive here. And as I said, to echo Mr. Letourneau's words, it's a great community, and I do think that everyone here involved, the municipality, you do a wonderful job, and I just want to recognize that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you raise your hand? Can I go up?
Sure may.
Can I say it right here so I don't embarrass
You have to go to the microphone.
I can hear you well, Sabrina, but
myself? I have a very loud voice. I just want to say that I want to recognize our town's police department, who busted their butts helping everybody and then did the kids program afterwards. I want to acknowledge the fire department, who was out there doing wellness checks, even out on Martin Stream Road where we're so far away. They were up and down our road checking everybody. The Public Works, Bruce, what a team. I'll tell you what, they busted butts clearing the trees and everything. So not just the Grange and the other part of the community and you guys stepping up, they're one hell of a team for our town. And so, I mean, I'm sorry. Everybody's saying the Grange and everybody else, but they forget the real true heroes are those heroes back there. So that was my thing.
And your name? Matt, I didn't get
Thank you.
She didn't state her name.
Sabrina Williamson,
Rena Williamson?
Yes.
Martin
Oh,
Stream.
yeah?
Any more?
Hi there.
Hello.
I'm Tammy Meunier, resident of Fairfield. I want to say, I just spoke to them back there about the Grange, and I guess it went very smoothly and went very well during the emergency. What I would want to ask about is how does one get involved with maybe bringing something to the community center as well if we have an emergency like that. Again, I think that would be very important in the downtown area, as important as it is out in Fairfield Center. I started working with the unhoused at Hedda Falls over this past summer, and I've been working with helping them. So I have a little bit of, knowledge of how to do that sort of thing and whatever, but I would like to get involved with something like that so we're not caught off guard next time, and have more opportunity to help people.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a big point. I'll let you use up your 3.
Yeah, so who would I talk to? How do we go about doing that?
So you can come and talk with me at the town office.
Okay.
It is a conversation that we've had with the Economic and Community Development Committee.
Okay.
It is a conversation we're having about this building in general, getting it a generator, all of those things.
Oh, okay.
In this type of event, it being a water event and flooding in the river, this location would not ever be an ideal location to be used.
You're right, yep.
But one of the things we were discussing later on in the meeting is the storm, and some of those things, our ordinances, our emergency response policy, updating our locations. What we found when we pulled that document out was several of those, our contacts weren't quite up to date. So, things that we know what's in the policy, but it's always not anything we look at every single day either.
Sure.
But certainly, as Economic Community Development Committee starts working towards that goal, definitely we'll keep you in mind for all of that,
Okay,
because I
great.
think it would be a great asset.
Yeah, I think that would be, have it
I
all.
just want to say something. I'll give you some more minutes. The Grange, that's by the hip. I'm the director of that,
Yep.
the Women's Center. I mentioned to them, saying we have 2 parts. What if happened?
Yeah.
And we did it by the hip. And Shelley took charge of that, and
Yep.
we ran it, so.
Nice. Yeah, it'd be great if we had something, in the town so that, because it's, Fairfield Center is a ways. Some people don't have transportation, or even talk about something where we could help with that, or set up people for certain volunteer positions to take care of each section of helping people.
Multiple locations.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Things like that. I think that's about it. Another thing, I guess, about the rink. Anything, is the rink dead?
I have an
Is it-
update on that in my town
You
manager's
do.
report.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tam. Yeah, I think that's actually what you're talking about. Looking at, you have a horrible event happen. What allows us to have some reflection on what went right and what went wrong, and how we can improve for next time. Hopefully there's not a next time, but at least we can maybe learn from it.
Because we're just
It's spot
waiting.
on. Yeah, but it's spot on. No, you're
That's
right.
what we were waiting too, for the downtown area to get power back. BFW had one in the church, no power. We're the only one that had a generator out there, so that's why we had it. And everything's down here is gonna be on work again, so.
Maybe if the town had a bus, they could pick up local people that don't have that.
They need to recognize.
No.
You want to make,
Anybody else want to speak? On comments?
You have to go up to them.
Okay.
Would it be possible for me to ask my question on Zoom? Sorry.
Does it concern the land use ordinance, Cody, or is it something else?
Both, I guess, technically. I just wanted to first say, just wanted to reiterate the comments on the community coming together. It's been a crazy couple weeks. And so it's been nice to see everyone share the load. And I don't think I can say anything else that anyone else hasn't already said. And then my only other comment/question was, where would we go to find more information on what the proposed amendments to the land use ordinance are? Like, where is more information on that? Just because the agenda doesn't say anything specifically about changing from cannabis to, or marijuana to cannabis, or anything along those lines. So I'd love to find out more information if possible.
Sure. Thank you, Cody.
when I posted the public hearing notice in accordance with the ordinance, which is a little different than the other ordinances, it has to be posted further in advance. I did put the red line version online, and we have had printed copies at the town office since that was posted. That all took place earlier.
All posted on the Fairfield website, sorry.
Yeah, fairfieldme.com, under the public notices, that's where I post all the public hearings. Sometimes I have trouble with these large documents, but I was able to somehow get that document to load. This is a miracle.
Great, okay, thank you. I'll see if I can pull that up. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Cody.
Moving on.
Going once, going twice, sold. Thank you very much. The fourth order of business, reports from staff and committees, the town manager report.
All right, so last Thursday, December 14th, immediately following your council meeting, I did contact the AYCC regarding council's vote on the ice rink. Their board was to meet to discuss and vote on that process on December 18th. Of course, that was the day of the storm. That meeting was canceled. They have not met yet. I did reach out to them this morning also for an update. They still need to reschedule that meeting, and will be letting me know soon. I did speak to Patrick this afternoon. When I spoke to him regarding the 100 pairs of ice skates that evidently were available for donation, those are not available for donation. The individual who donated them to the Boys and Girls Club does not want to donate them to the town of Fairfield, so there are no skates available for anyone. But just as a bit of a side note, I did receive a photo from the police chief Monday afternoon that it was a very good thing that that rink was not here, because a tree did land in the middle of that basketball court right out back. So that saved thousands of dollars in what would have potentially been damage to that rink. So it is a little bit of a blessing, but I'm still waiting to hear back from them. When I spoke to Patrick on the phone this afternoon, they still had not rescheduled a time for their meeting, but he was hoping to get that done quickly.
Okay, that was, I was just going to ask you.
No actual time, but he said he would keep me posted as soon as that was done. Also, of course, the 18th was the beginning of the storm. The town office and the library did close at noon due to no power. We'll get into more of that later. The 19th through the 23rd was storm mitigation. This past Monday and Tuesday, non-emergency services were closed for the Christmas holiday. Hope everybody had a lovely Christmas. And then the 24-25 budget process, because of last week, is behind schedule. We're hoping to get that caught up within the next 2 weeks. And then also, we did go back and double check that after the December 13th meeting, I just wanted to give you a quick update. The info at fairfield-me.gov. I fortunately get more than 3 minutes. I'm trying to keep it quick, though. I just wanted to let you know that we only received 5 emails at our info at fairfield-me.gov account. One was requesting a property card, one was requesting our mutual aid contracts, one was a question regarding a veterans exemption, and one was to read tonight during the public comment. I'd like to remind folks that we do not monitor social media. The town of Fairfield and its various departments do have Facebook pages, but we use them as tools to push information out and typically direct you back to another website or our website, which is where you will find the bulk of our information. We also do, though, want to encourage you to contact us directly, whether it be email, whether it be phone, or stop by the office with questions regarding anything regarding the town or town processes. It is the fastest and the quickest way for you to get not only the information, but to get correct information. We are there, our departments are there, and we don't mind talking with you, or at least scheduling a time to talk with you. And that was just my biggest thing and biggest push for information. We did what we could to push information out after the storm. We had no internet and no phones, and a lot of our communication had to be the old-fashioned way, directly in person. So just know, folks, that social media isn't always the best place to get accurate information. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Any questions for Michelle? Nope. Good. Committee reports. Do you have anything from economic?
For the Economic Committee, we're meeting January 2nd at 3:30 here. Previously, I'd said it was a business meeting. It's getting ready for the business meeting, which will take place in February. We're just laying the groundwork for what we're going to be discussing. So, January 2nd, 3:30.
Thank you. Peter?
The Bill Committee will be meeting January 9th for going over our reporting to all the facilities we visited in town. And that's at 5 o'clock, right here in the chambers.
The PFAS committee unfortunately got flooded out, kind of. We had our meeting was scheduled for the 18th.
Yep.
And so that was canceled. We were trying to reschedule the Department of Agriculture at this time, so. That's all I have on committees. So we'll move on to the fifth order of business, the consent agenda.
These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of the portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Due to extensive content and task redirection associated with the December 18th minutes are not available yet from the December 13th, 2023 meeting. And so that's very understandable.
Thank you.
And it was,
I appreciate that.
and there's actually 61 pages of minutes.
Well, that was the transcript for the YouTube.
Right, so potentially trying to put that
It's a
all
lot,
together.
it's a lot to navigate,
together, so-
and I had to
No,
handle emergencies.
There are other things that are more important. So item 23-157, order the town council hereby approves treasurer's warrant number 89, general fund in the amount of $118,024.91, not limited to, but including mainly paving, motor vehicles, CAI Tech, and Morton Salts.
So moved.
Oh, we got another one.
Second.
Got one more.
That's what I checked.
Oh, that's right. H2.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I did it again.
Item 23-158, order the town council hereby approves and signs a sewer certificate of commitment in the amount of $155,704.50 for the second quarter fiscal year sewer billing for the period of 10/1/2023 to 12/31/2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. The sixth order of business, to take action on the following items of business as read by the council chair. Item 23-159, order that the town council hereby approves comprehensive statutory amendments to the land use ordinance, accessory dwelling units, LD 2003, and cannabis MRSA Title 28/B, or -B, sorry, and Title 22.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
Cody Duncan.
Got one?
Cody, do you still have your question for regarding this ordinance?
I already asked it in the public comment section.
Okay. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
So as written, I mean, in my opinion, as written, I think it's a good change and well crafted. Now, are there things that come up that it's always a fluid document, that can be altered? And so I think Representative Rudnicki brought up a good point. But I think on this piece, I think it's been well done, and I think I'd like to move it forward.
So the law requirement is that we must follow state law as of January 1. So this gets us in compliance with that. I have an idea that this document will actually be back before you because there's talk that the next legislative session is actually going to be making amendments to LD 2003 for various different things. So I think you're going to find some changes that are going to come through with it anyway.
We're going to have to alter.
But yeah.
Gotcha. Any other discussion? All those, we had a motion.
You have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second.
So we're all good? All those in favor? Item 23-160, order the town council hereby confirms manager's appointment of Marcus B. Harden as full-time firefighter EMT effective January 2nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. The seventh order of business, council workshop and other business. Discuss 12/18/23 wind flood infrastructure storm debriefing. This could be interesting. So lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about. Well, there is and there isn't. But first of all, the first thing that I want to say, as some have said it in here, is you can't understand the level of pride I have for the staff that behaved during and how they conducted themselves during the storm. Most of these folks left their own homes without power, without heat. They left their families, and they came here to take care of this community and put their needs above their own. And they did it relatively seamlessly. There was very little help from emergency management organizations, little to no contact. And then, of course, remember, we really couldn't contact the outside world very well either. So we have emergency management plans. We have an emergency management ordinance. We have laws that we follow, regulations that we follow. Some of them need to be updated, as we very much learned throughout this process. But they worked seamlessly together to get things done, and everybody did what they could do, whether it be from the library opening up as just a warming location that had access to Wi-Fi and the ability for folks to be able to charge their devices, to PD putting up charging stations where they could that ran off generators in 2 locations throughout town. Everybody, and Crossroads TV, Chad came in and actually videoed a lot of our damage for insurance purposes, for FEMA funding applications, all of those different things. Everybody did absolutely everything they could. The town office, you might not have been able to call them, but they were there. And somebody was there when you walked through the door. We were lucky that Tuesday morning we did have staff. Most of our departments did. The community center and the police department did not have power until the 20th, I do believe, before that was restored. After power was restored down here, we realized one of the biggest things that had happened was that our fiber optic cable that served the community center, the police department, the fire department, and the town office for our internet and phones was severed. That was the reason why we, even though we had power, we did not have those services at those locations. We discovered that our fiber optic cable is extremely out of date, and in order to be able to have it replaced, it needed to be actually constructed in Portland. Fortunately, we found out once crews were able to get here, we had enough on the line, enough slack that they were able to repair that, or we probably still would be sitting here without internet and phones. So that's a conversation for a different day, but something that we'll definitely have to address and upgrade as we go forward. There were lots of things that happened throughout that event. The biggest pieces was, of course, the evacuations that happened on our Upper Main Street locations, in Water Street, and then the concerns for Island Ave and Bunker Avenue. There was a lot of concern that happened and a lot of rumors that happened regarding the Shawmut Dam, all of the dam systems themselves. I personally actually spoke to someone at Brookfield Renewable at least 4 times that day, trying to combat. I mean, I went from having a phone call with a representative of Brookfield Renewal telling me that they were operating as planned, there were no planned adjustments, to staff in my office within seconds saying, we just got notice that the dams are going to be wide open and that we're not going to be able to get people out of the way fast enough. I mean, and these were coming from very respected organizations throughout the process, so that did not help for what we did. But fortunately, the folks at Brookfield Renewable, I did have cell phone numbers. They made themselves available. They did do what they had to do in order to squelch those rumors and got us the answers just as quickly as we could, so to make sure folks were safe. Because in that instance, waiting 20 minutes could make a really big difference if something was going to happen at the Shawmut Dam in this location all the way up through town. So those times were very tense, but they did work quite smoothly, and I'm very proud of all of the work that they did. I'm grateful, extremely grateful for the Grange to be able to stand up that location with barely any notice. I'm very grateful to the food pantry for providing food from the pantry to the Grange to be able to cook those meals for folks. Extremely grateful to the town of Norridgewock for opening up their emergency shelter that covers Mercer, Smithfield, Norridgewock, and Fairfield. They stood that up all on their own while they were waiting for the Red Cross to respond, so that our folks knew that they had a place to go that night when the Grange closed. So there were a lot of people all over, not just this community, but surrounding communities, working very hard to make sure people were safe and had a warm place to be. Those things were wonderful. Our call volume was astronomical. The fire department did roughly 80% of the calls they normally do in a month in 5 days. The police department did 30% of their calls that they normally do in a month in 4 days. The staff stayed late. They worked extra hours. They did everything within their power, and then to turn around and start try to find some semblance of the Cops Care for Kids program was just an astounding act, and I'm grateful that they were able to do that. Public Works and their crew did everything that they could to ensure that our roads stayed open for emergency responders. They worked with CMP. There was constant contact with CMP about what was going on, what was going to happen, where were they going to be working, where were they going next. Somebody earlier mentioned buses. We do have buses. We have the ability of buses. The school, the bus garage made buses available to us if we needed them to shuttle folks. We did not get a request for one, but those were available if we needed to get those. The school, the only location they had available for potential shelter was actually Benton Elementary. Because of the conditions of the river, we didn't feel that that was appropriate for us to have them try to stand that up in that location, simply because of the fact that we didn't know if our folks got there, and this was at the time, this was Tuesday, when we were watching the river rise roughly a foot an hour, whether or not, if our residents got across the river, whether they would be able to get back, and what the kind of time frame that was. There were bridges closed. There were, at one point in time, we were the only place, these Fairfield Benton bridges, for anybody surrounding us to be able to get from one side of the river to the other. Roads were closed. The Hinckley Bridge was never actually closed. You just couldn't get to it from anywhere. So but the rule of thumb is that if the river hits the metal part of the platform of the bridge, then it's time to close the bridge. But DOT was watching. If anybody was around on the sunshiny bright day Tuesday, you would have seen the helicopters in the air and folks looking at all of that. So there was a lot of monitoring and possibilities of what things could be or where things could be. Like I said, our ordinances will be reviewed. We had multiple meetings where it was the emergency management director, which is our fire chief, the police chief, the public works director, and myself. For the first 2 days, we were together at least 3 times very formally for just meetings of status quo. Where are we? Who's in charge of what? How do we get things done? That worked very well for us. In the beginning, it was a lot of cell phone conversations and very much emergent need and things being taken care of the way they needed to. They just did a stand-up job, and I'm very proud of them.
Thank you. I think I have more comments coming later, but I think that's key.
And a lot of them are here too. Not to put them on the spot, but if you, the council, have any questions for them. And this was kind of more of, when this was put on your agenda last Thursday, we did not know where we would be. So I thought for certain I was going to be sitting here explaining to you why we still had no phone and internet. Fortunately, I was notified of that restoration Saturday morning. So folks were still here working. The best part about that entire event is that the company that contracts for the maintenance of that line, that gentleman was actually here in town Tuesday morning. He knew that that line was down and severed before we did, and had already placed the order to the contractor and for the repairs. So we were very much ahead of the game on that, and we were very fortunate. So it was good.
I guess I just had a few comments or questions. One is some type of after-action report. Is there some time we can maybe have a formalized one, or what you saw as being positives and what were negatives, and how we might affect those going forward, or what we can do to make it better?
Certainly can work on one of those. I did receive from the fire chief earlier today just some semblance of our storm costs and call statistics. Just so you're aware too, we did submit $67,858 of town damage. So there was damage to the siding on this building. There was damage to shingles on the town office and the police department. The fire department had no building damage. However, they received chips in their windshields, broken mirrors on the sides of our trucks. The hose bed cover was ripped off by the wind. We had a tree that fell into our mobile command unit for the police department. Public Works' largest expense has been debris cleanup within the right-of-way. Anything that was in imminent danger of falling into the travel way was cleaned up. And then the other piece was the mobile pumping that we had to do to our sewer system. A lot of people don't think about where things go when you flush the toilet, but there are pump systems all over this community that run off from electricity that push it so that it goes to the Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District. Then they have larger pump systems that then in turn collect that and pump it continuously. We had Valley Farms without power, did not have a system so that had to be pumped out by CMD so that it did not overflow. Later on during the storm on Tuesday, we received word, well, after the storm was over, but because of the flooding, KSDD actually shut down their pump system, which is why we pushed out a warning that don't flush unless you don't have to. There was a very serious and real concern about what you were flushing was going to be on Main Street. There were places on Water Street where we had to replace the manhole covers because the river had ripped them off. So I guarantee you some of it was on Water Street. So there were those sorts of things that were issues that were beyond us that we literally had no control over, and there was quite a few of those things that had happened. A lot of down trees, a lot of down power lines, obviously. Those are the things that everybody knows. We were fortunate. Our damage could have been much, much greater. While the flooding reached the parking lot, it did not reach this building. And from what I've gathered, even in the flood of '87, it did not reach this building either. But it does make it to the parking lot. We have a little bit of elevation in there. But when this is all said and done, there will be a big old wrap-up kind of piece. And this 67.8 that we submitted to FEMA, those are just estimates, really rough estimates. There's some things, I have no idea how much the cost to repair the fiber was. We estimated at what labor might be. We still haven't had a roof looked at. We don't know what the shingle replacement's going to be. So there's lots of those things, but we had to get the insurance company up and running, and FEMA declarations were required today. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I guess other thoughts, I just, any kind of infrastructure report of like what we're looking at for damages and what we might have to repair, road, culvert, that kind of thing?
So there is a grant that we're putting in for. In fact, this is going to come to you, quite frankly, as an after-fact approval for the design. We just received word that the cross culvert grant is closing in like 12, 14 days. The major cross culverts, like the one we did on the Old County Road and the other one that we just did, Green Road. Thank you. We're going to be putting in for one for the Colville Road. And so we've stood Dirigo up and got them to start working on that design so we can meet that submission. But that's the biggest one that we've had. Yeah. For the most part, it wasn't that bad road-wise.
Bruce, I'm going to call you. Does that sound, how do you feel on things infrastructure-wise?
Our biggest mess right now is just getting trees out of the ditches before we get snow. Infrastructure-wise, we had very few minor washouts that were fixed within a day with a backhoe and a dump truck. Other than that, we need to get this brush out of the ditches, the large trees and so forth, before things freeze up. Sewers, it was a scary situation. You know, when KSD says they're shutting their pumps down, the interceptor was full. We're pumping our stations and had no place to put that. It was a rough time.
And if you don't know what the interceptor is, it's the major line that runs from here to Shawmut. So when that's full.
Typically, when we have a pump station down, I'll have a pump truck like Stanley's or CMD pump our station and come down and dump in that interceptor. And when you pop that cover and it's full, you realize there's a really major problem here. So.
Yeah.
But things are getting back to normal. It's just getting the brush cleaned up.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bruce. Thank you.
And I'd like to use that to remind folks that the Green Road brush dump is open so that you can take your brush
Yeah, I was
there.
let you speak to that a little bit on the debris end of things, what's going on there for cleanup.
So what we're cleaning up is those things that are within our road right-of-way that are in danger of falling on the travel way. That's one of the things that we always do, right? So if you at home have brush and debris at your house, that is your responsibility to remove those sorts of things. And when I say what we're cleaning up, it's not. What it is it's those trees, it's those large pieces that are going to come out into the roadway and get those out of the ditches. I would also advise anybody at home, if you have stuff in your ditch, it's really easy to use that as a place to store things until spring or whatnot, but that will really affect your stormwater runoff in the spring and also through the winter. Those ditches are meant for water, not for trees, not for logs, not for leaves, not for brush, not for any of that stuff. So those things are being done. The way that typically works. I had heard somebody mention to me something about the fact that the town's taking all of the wood. That is not true. We don't have any need for that. We take care of those things. Typically, if we have to cut a tree that's in danger of the traveling way, we ask the property owner if they want it. If they do not, then we take that away. And it's the Green Road brush dump, basically, where it goes, so.
There are a couple companies helping run the...
Yes, there's 2 different companies that are helping us get that done as quickly as possible.
One thing that you brought up there was actually the bus shuttle and like no request. How would that have been required? I mean, that's something we can talk about after action kind of, but like requesting that, would that have come from?
So I believe it was mentioned to the folks at the Grange that if they needed a ride to let us know, and we would have queued that up. That was really a spur of the moment plan by us speaking to Scott at the bus garage. And that if we needed buses, could we get them? I think folks were shuttled back and forth with people's personal vehicles or police vehicles or what have you. We did water rescues basically with a Humvee with a boat on standby because we had folks where we had to go in and actually take them out. Fortunately, we had that piece of equipment to get them out of there. I do believe that folks at the shelter in Norwich Walk shuttled people back down to the Grange the following day. They had some folks that they did that or took them someplace else because they didn't request us, but yeah.
And I saw at least one SAD 49 bus that was delivering on Tuesday morning.
Shelley went and got them.
She went and got them. Yeah, I wasn't sure how that exactly happened.
They didn't bring them back.
There was a bus that used the shuttle that went over to the island apartments.
Yep, that's where I saw them bring.
And picked up people
And picked up people from there and took them up. Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
So, I mean, in that particular situation, that's one of those things where, right, so the ideal situation would have been call us, we'll come get you. But that's just not possible. We received a lot of transmissions from dispatch at Somerset County where folks would call into 911 and they needed something, those sorts of things. Another point to all of that storm is because there was no power at the tower up on the Howe Road, we had to ensure that that generator up there stayed fueled. When there's no power, you wonder how you're going to get fuel for your vehicles. So for police cruisers and fire trucks to continue to go, we get our fuel from the bus garage and DOT.
We didn't have power.
DOT didn't have power. The bus garage, while they had power, its entrance was flooded.
Yeah.
So how do we go about getting fuel for our vehicles? We actually had plans in which there were places where if we could leave town, we could get it in other pieces. Staff walked with cans into the backside of the bus garage and filled cans and then walked them back up to Willow Street so that they could go and ensure we had fuel for our vehicles. So there's a lot of things that happen that a lot of people don't hear about. And quite frankly, if we do our jobs correctly, a lot of people won't ever hear about them. But just know that these guys did an outstanding job.
And the last one I had, I'm sorry to take up a bunch of time, but is about FEMA and some of that, so where people can, I know you put some stuff out there, but I just want to have it on this kind of site.
So today we shared and we pushed out, the governor has done, there's a page specifically for flood at maine.gov. We put that on our Facebook page. We've put that information out. 211 after you've contacted your homeowner's insurance, or if you don't have homeowner's insurance, dial 211, let them know that. The Red Cross, 1-800 Red Cross, call them if you have issues regarding storm damage or housing concerns. We did receive word from the Red Cross this morning. We got an email that stated the fact that anybody that had been in their shelters that was in need of housing, they have found housing for. So folks that have used those services have received, and it doesn't say specifically whether it's Fairfield residents or not. It just says in general, anybody who has been using the Red Cross shelters that needed assistance with housing, that need had been met. They weren't looking for any. I think there's still a few issues with some folks, but they may be larger and greater than just the flooding. But we do encourage folks to call 211. It doesn't guarantee that there'll be any FEMA funds available, but it's definitely, the worst thing they're going to do is tell you no. So, but definitely worth it.
Thank you for all those answers.
Well, I'll wait until I want to add something to that briefly.
Yeah. No, okay. you're good. Those some of the follow-up questions I had, so yeah, fire away if you have some.
To you briefly, Michelle, the junior high was open on, I think, the 18th and 19th for showers for the residents.
That is correct, yep.
And I was pushing out information. My FEMA experience, I was getting it and pushing it. 211, Red Cross, and everything.
Thank you.
The Grange did not get food from the pantry, all donations. I want to thank everyone who donated food. They just kept pouring in eggs and things like that, and we just cooked it.
Oh, I guess I received misinformation on that. Thank you for clarifying. I'm all set.
That's it.
I think we covered everything very well.
Nice.
Yep. And the junior high opened as soon as they received power.
Yep.
They didn't
Yeah.
have power at their location, so yeah, that was good.
So I think that actually brings the other council business. John, do you have anything
No,
to
we
add?
covered everything.
Okay.
Very well.
Stephanie, you have anything to
No.
add? Okay. Peter?
No, Shelley did it in a briefing first about the benefits we want to have at the Grange. I want to again thank our brothers and sisters of the Grange, the community that helped support us, come to visit us. And this was run by the HIP, and we'll update a policy. Policy hasn't been written yet, we will get something going. And at the end, I want to wish the community and everyone Happy New Year, and wait till 2024.
That's good. Thank you. For me, I have a few things. I think one of it is just to be on business, and I think I have to owe I don't know if it's an apology or just owe an explanation, but I think it's I need to show accountability. In the one issue that was supposed to be, we were hoping to have on tonight was a discussion about some of the houses that were going to up for demolition. That was supposed to be on the agenda originally, and then last week happened. And so that kind of threw things off. So I do apologize for that. The records are actually probably in the basement of the town office, and so they are that old to go through and get everybody the information they need to make wise decisions and to go through that. I think it was legit. I mean, I think it's totally reasonable, and to give some grace to those folks at the town office not to be able to run through and get that information at this point to do something with these houses that have been sitting vacant for a number of years. However, I did say that we'd have it on the agenda, so I apologize for that and not being on the agenda at this time. We were trying to look at it, doing it in the end of probably our second January meeting, because next one is our organizational meeting that'll take a lot of time, but it's not been forgotten. There was a reason for it, but if you want to disagree with that, that's okay. It's definitely up to you. But it's just a reason, trying to let you know why that we not on the agenda. The same thing is actually on the community center, which we'll talk about at some point. But I think that's really neat, and it shows the need for it. But that's why Stephanie's been working, Councilor Thibodeau has been working very hard on that to try to get the community center kind of stood up as a improved center, and that could be a warming shelter. So there's a lot to go that she's been working very hard on that, and so I think that will be something that we will continue to work on. The skating rink, I think that's still right out there at the forefront. I really hope to have some information on that end this week. I'd love to have that be a positive vote, and hopefully we can then turn it around quickly and get it assembled now that the tree's out of the way. So that'd be a wonderful thing. From there, just like everyone else, I just do want to thank a lot of people in this town. I think everybody that helped should be thanked, and I'm going to probably forget people. But I did go to the town office on Tuesday morning, and I saw Michelle, and I saw Christine, and I saw Sue. They were all there. And then I also saw Bruce, I saw Tom, and I saw Chad, and those guys had all been, especially Bruce and Tom, so I should say Director Williams and Chief Gould, but they had been working hard already. I could see it. They were tired. They were very tired, but they still had a chance to laugh and a chance to smile, and you could see that they had energy in their eyes when they were talking about what needed to be done. And then I think that was really the key. Unfortunately, Chief Leary was not was out there working, so I didn't get a chance to see him. And I know the same deal. That very tired, but definitely energized by their job. So I really appreciate everything that they were doing. I do want to thank MSD 49 for also having those hot showers that can make a difference at that point. The Victor Grange, like we talked about, really stepped up, and I'm so glad that we got that generator last year. Made a world of difference.
3 months. We had 3 months ago.
Yeah, right.
We just got it.
Right, but the fact that we got it approved and got it in there,
It made a huge difference. Church of the Nazarene to step up and provide a warming shelter as well on their own at their congregation. The Interfaith Food Pantry for allowing folks to come and get some food when they need it. There are many others out there, and I wish I'm going to miss some.
VFW.
The FW, thank you very much. And also, the same end, the library was a great one. To actually still have Wi-Fi, and you had some people that are a little bit younger than me, like, hey, there's a chance to get Wi-Fi and warm up and get something to drink. So I think that just that kind of stepping into the void and being able to do that. So I was really proud of the town working together. I think going forward, we want to talk about, I think for some things in the future, the cannabis, like the Representative Rudnicki talked about, the community center will continue to work on. Remind you that January 6th benefit supper at the Grange from 4:30 to 7 o'clock. And otherwise, thank you very much and have a happy new year. So I think meeting moved to recess.
Next regular meeting.
Sorry, jumping ahead.
Almost.
Almost.
We're close.
So the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be Wednesday, January 10th, 2024, to be held as a hybrid meeting in the council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 PM. Now we can recess.
Motion to recess.
Second.